Thank you for tuning in. I'm joined today by two educators from African Leadership Academy, who I will allow to introduce themselves shortly. But just for context, this is a conversation that builds on the previous issue, where we outlined 4 ways that teachers can start to develop entrepreneurial skills through entrepreneurship practice. And that was something guided by Malcolm Gladwell's discussion about, 10,000, the 10,000 hour rule. And so I'm very excited to have Dave Tait and Nkembo Kiala here to share a little bit about one of those ways to practice entrepreneurship, and that is the Student Enterprise Program at ALA. And so to kick us off, I'm going to ask you to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role at African Leadership Academy.
Let me start. My name is Dave Tait. The head of Entrepreneurial Leadership Department at ALA. It's one of the core subjects that we offer to students. I've been at ALA 2011.
Great. Thank you, Dave. Nkembo?
My name is Nkembo Kiala. I am an entrepreneurial leadership faculty member here at ALA, and I also serve as the student enterprise manager. I joined ALA in 2016 and haven't looked back since then.
Okay, great. Thank you both for your time. So we'll just dive right into it, starting with for the educators who are thinking of starting or creating a student venture program or student enterprise program. What would you say are, a few things that they must have in place before doing that? So no matter what context they're in, what are some must-haves that they should have?
Okay. So from our perspective, it's been really helpful to have program objectives. So what do we aim to have in place so that students have clear goals? Mm-hmm. I think also one of the probably very high on the list is funding opportunities for enterprises. Mm-hmm. An investment council that then funds these enterprises. We've also managed to create a high stakes competition called eFest that helps improve the quality of incoming student enterprises.
Okay. And so eFest is where they pitch ideas for enterprises that could become a part of the program.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So every year we have about anywhere between 20 and 25 enterprises, and a third of those that come in every year are new enterprises from eFest.
Okay.
And those would look more like startups.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Nkembo, if at any time you want to add anything, please feel free to jump in.
Just to add on to what Dave had said, along with the objectives, I think what's also crucial is to have a very strong curriculum to help you structure what it is that you're delivering and what it is that you intend students to take away. Mm-hmm. We've really managed to structure it as scaffold learning from beginning to end so that students are able to follow in a very effective manner. Mm-hmm. Along with that, we've also attached a book that enables further learning, which is called Discipline Entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And that allows facilitators to also see what's being done outside there instead of just focusing inwards on our tools and means of practice.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. And so what then is the value of the student enterprise program, whether, to teachers or to students themselves or the community that you're operating in?
Yeah, so I think, Cameron, you go first.
Sure, thanks, Dave. Value, I say, the huge takeaway here is students are able to trade and transact and earn some form of an income, and practice structure within all of that, practice ethics within all of that, and being able to meaningfully impact other people's lives through a service or a product that they've meaningfully been able to develop. I think that's one of the huge takeaways for our students.
Okay.
Yeah. Just as far from a skills perspective, there's improved collaboration, more professional management of projects, solving complex problems, and then there's probably value and a kind of a challenge is accountability. So that accountability, the team's members hold each other accountable, and also how do student enterprise coaches hold teams accountable. I think you mentioned as well, it's an opportunity to practice entrepreneurship in a simulated environment.
Yeah. So it's a experiential learning, really, in a setting that mirrors the real world to a degree. And yeah, I think it's important. The skills that you mentioned also suggest to me that it doesn't mean that because you have been in this simulation that you will necessarily become an entrepreneur. These are skills that will help you no matter what path you pursue afterwards. Okay, great. And so in thinking about, and Dave, you've been at ALA since 2011, as you said. What changes have you seen over the years in the program, the Student Enterprise Program?
Yeah. So I think three kind of big key points here. It's more structured right now than it has been. We've got better systems. Handover has improved. We have documentation of all enterprises right now, online in the cloud.
Yeah.
The general student enterprise economy has improved, which has allowed for some enterprises to create equity deals with other enterprises. There's less funding now than kind of 6 years ago, because the whole economy stabilized a lot more. And then one of the major changes that we've seen is, and I think this is beneficial to other people thinking about starting up a student enterprise program, is that we started introducing a lot more internal service-related enterprises. For example, Assembly and Cultural Events enterprise handles a lot of culture building activities at a house. We've also moved the Secretariat MAU team into the Student Enterprise Program just to give them more time.
And just for people listening, MAU is the Model African Union. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. Yeah. And then what modifications, I guess you've mentioned some of them, but what modifications to the program have helped to improve learning for students or just delivery from the educator's perspective?
Yeah. I think one of the big challenges that we've overcome is how to manage time a little bit better. So we used to run student enterprise time. We only had 2 terms. We extended it into a 3rd term.
Okay.
So we made the final term of year 1 student enterprise program foundations, which gives teams the opportunity to strategize and figure out what the plan is for the next 2 terms. That's been really helpful.
Okay.
We brought in some external facilitators on some occasions. And then what we found as well is understanding the rhythm of the school has been really helpful, because after getting into college and kind of major deliverables that year 2s have to deliver in term 1, they then have term 2, which is their final term, to really accelerate and achieve a lot of their goals.
And that's probably also something that's fed into more successful handover, as you said, to the incoming teams. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would also add that Dave has been very deliberate at getting the right team together in terms of us as facilitators, getting people in the design thinking space, getting people in the consultancy space, getting people in the mentorship and development space. That's really brought good dynamics in terms of the team, and each person has been able to even broaden our scope of knowledge, broadening the student's scope of knowledge, enabling really good facilitation of the course material.
Yeah, great. And I imagine with such a strong team, you know, entrepreneurial educators who are constantly innovating or thinking about how to improve, that also serves as a model for the students, right? Because it's not just teachers telling you one thing but doing another, but students are learning from what they're seeing as well. Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that. And so in closing, are there any tips or pieces of advice that you can share for educators? Or are there resources? I know you mentioned, Nkembo, is it the discipline of entrepreneurship? Or there's some books anyway, or educators or websites that educators can visit to help them to kick something like ALA Student Enterprise Program off?
Yeah, definitely. We've been quite fortunate that, being able to identify one good piece of material. But I would say, educators need to map out what their intentions are. As Dave mentioned, we have objectives, and try and tie their objectives to whatever resources that they want to implement within their structured delivery of course material. And don't be quick to change. Work on something for some time and see the effects, and mitigate some of the issues that come along with it. But be wary of constant change. It's always good to keep something stable so that the students are able to intake the information adequately as well.
Yeah, give it a chance, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
I just want to come back to some of the value of a student enterprise program, specifically to educators as well, and even to external people. There'll be good boards who come in, and that's beneficial not only for the board members to contribute to the learning of students, but it also helps the student teams to be more accountable to people other than their coaches, their immediate coaches. And then I think also one of the great things that happened in the student enterprise program for educators is that it's a really great professional development opportunity. Like everybody who's taught in EL and specifically the student enterprise program has learned like a lot. Because we're like, as we're teaching it, we're also getting better. We're learning more. And then a lot of people who have been in the EL team have actually gone off and then started up enterprise. Yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So you're learning and also practicing and creating opportunities for yourself as well. Okay, great. Well, thank you both so much for your time. It's always a joy to hear from people who are on the ground and doing this important work with our students. One of the other examples or something that we outlined in the newsletter for how educators can try to create opportunities for entrepreneurship practice was a camp. So like an entrepreneurship or leadership camp. We also talked about an entrepreneurship club. And of course, the importance of having a curriculum so that if you have a class, you are being intentional about what it is you are teaching. And, all those are things that I know ALA is doing. It's a part of the core curriculum. And so thank you again for walking us through the student enterprise program as it exists at ALA.
Pleasure.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Bye.